Welcome back. So now we'll start with the second part of retrieving the data from Firestore and show those data in a table. So first we'll start with this part, like once message like whether the user has went out. So and if the user chooses no, then we'll show the message like does the user want to see the last 15 days report with an options like yes or no. And if the user chooses yes, then we'll show the last 15 days report in a table in our assistant. So if the user says like no, then we'll close the conversation with the end message. So let's start developing those part now. So we'll go to the development again. So what happens is like from the main invocation, so when the action has been get triggered, so it will call the greetings handler, so which will go to our cloud function. So in the cloud function we have written the logic like whether it is a new user or an existing. Here we will be confirming those things, and if it is a new user we will be going back to the user activity. So we will be going to the user activity. So here we will be asking the question like whether the user has went out today or not. So if the user chooses yes, then it will go with the flow like storing those data. So if the user chooses no, then we'll ask again one more message to the user like whether the user wants to see the report. So now we'll handle the no part. So before that, what we'll do is like we'll create a scene. So let's name the scene like retrieve data. So we'll open that scene. So on enter of this scene, we'll ask the question to the user like, so we'll see the dialogues. So from the retrieve data, do you like to see the places you have visited earlier? We'll just copy those message, and then we'll add a suggestions like an yes or no option. So first option would be yes. We'll copy the same, and the second option would be no. So we'll save this one. So now we'll go back to the user activity scene, and then for the no match, we'll instead of showing this prompt, so we'll uncheck this one, and then we'll transit to the retrieve data scene and click save. So once the user says no, it will go to the retrieve data scene. So here it will ask the question like would you like to see the places you have visited earlier, and if it is yes, then we'll show the red data, and if it is no, then we'll show a default. We'll close the conversation. So for now what we'll do is like we'll handle those two intents also. So we'll click on the custom intent handling, and when the user chooses yes, now for now we'll write a simple prompt, then we'll connect it with our webbook. So retrieve data yes clicked, and when no is matched, that is like if the user doesn't want to see the reports, so then we'll close the conversation with the message. So we'll go back to the dialog. So if the user chooses no, then we'll give the message thank you message, and we'll add the system scene, that is end conversation. We'll click save. So now this part has been completed. So now we'll test our action. So we'll first reset the test. and then we'll do the trick to make it live. So we'll invoke the action.
Getting the test version of 𝗙𝗙𝗓. Welcome to 𝗙𝗙𝗓. Did you went out today?
So now the user clicks no.
Would you like to see the places you had visited earlier?
So now we'll click on the happy path, that is yes.
reterive data yes flipped.
So this flow has been working fine. So now we'll check the one more case, that is when the user says no. So we'll invoke the action.
Here's the test version of 𝗙𝗙𝗓. Welcome to 𝗙𝗙𝗓. Did you went out today?
So we'll enable the audio now. No.
Would you like to see the places you had visited earlier?
No.
Thank you. When you go out, tell me where you have went. Till then, stay safe.
So now this part is also working, like if the user says no, so then we'll provide a message and close the conversation. So here on the right hand side you can see like the day tracker has left the conversation. So the flow which we have created now, which we have created is working fine. So when the user says no, we'll be showing a message with an yes or no option, and if no is chosen, so we'll close the conversation, and if the user chooses yes, then we'll show a message like now we'll show a, instead of showing the message, we'll try to retrieve the data from Firestore, and then we'll show those data in a table. So now for that we'll go to our cloud function first and create a scene, a handler named. So we'll create a handler named get data, or instead you can give like get user locations, okay. Or we can give it like this, get location history. So the naming you can choose your own, like I'm just giving a random name, and then now we'll create a conversation. First we'll check whether the this handler has been getting called. Then we'll write the logics for the Firebase functions. So for now we'll just write get user report has been called. So now we'll deploy this function. So meantime what we'll do is like we'll copy this handler name, then we'll go to our retrieve data scene. So when the S is matched, instead of showing the prompt, so we'll call the webhook. The handler name is get location history. We can save that one. So now we'll wait for the deployment get completed. So now we'll wait until the deployment gets completed. Then we'll test our action. So once this part is get completed, so the next part will be like generating the reports. So we'll send the last 15 days report through an email or WhatsApp. So based on the user's choice. So we'll have this part also. So we'll create an email option using SendGrid, and in WhatsApp we'll connect it with Twilio and we'll try to send those reports. I think there is some deployment error, so we'll check it one more time. Instead of handle, we have given the name as handler, so that's a typo graph. So typo will fix that one and we'll update it, deploy it again. So again we are getting some issues. HTTP operational fulfillment, it is already in progress. Okay, we have stopped it in between, that's the issue. Either we have to wait until the timeout has been called. So we'll view the logs as well. Handler not found. So it should be like a handle, so that one we have fixed. Yes, we have fixed that one, and we'll try to redeploy it again. So the deployment has been in progress. So I'll check it out here, the console. Okay, I think it's deployed. So now we'll test our action and reset the test. So now when the user chooses yes, we have to get the message like get user report has been called. So once this part is working fine, then we'll start implementing the Firebase part like to retrieve the data. So now we'll enable the settings. So that settings has been enabled, so we'll invoke the action.
Here's the test version of 𝗙𝗓. Welcome to 𝗙𝗓. Did you went out today?
No.
Would you like to see the places you have visited earlier?
Yeah. Yes.
Get user report has been called.
So now the cloud function has been getting called successfully. So now we'll start implementing the Firebase part to retrieve the data. So now we'll start writing this logics. First thing what we will do is we'll import the headers needed. So first we'll go to the headers part, and so the admin as well as moment has been imported already, so we don't need to import it again. So but DB doc is also available, so that's not needed. So now we'll go back to our function. So instead of this part, so what we'll do is, so we'll be showing the last 15 days report. So what we'll do is from the current date, so we'll get the current date, as well as from that we'll calculate the last 15 days date. So we'll get the last 15th date, and then based on that we'll write a query in Firestore, then we'll retrieve those data, and then we'll push it to the table. So let's begin writing this logics. So first thing what we'll do is we'll get the current last week date. So we'll can give the name like last week date. So we'll use moment, the UTC format. So we'll subtract. So we need a 15 days date. So 15 date. So we'll check this one in moment to get the last 15 days date. So from the current date, it will go back to the last 15 days. So it will be subtract of 10 days. It will be days. So if you need it in a week, we can, instead of days, you can give it a week, and we'll format this date in year, month, and date. So what typically happens here is the moment will take the current date. From that date, it will subtract the 15 days. So and that result will be get formatted in year, month, and date format. And then we'll be having the current date. So we'll create the current date as well. Moment dot format. We'll format this current date in year, month, date format. So we'll check it out. So it's fine. So now what we'll do is like we'll write the query to fetch the data between these two dates. So the query will be like const report reference equal to db_document.var. So the date, the field which we are having in the Firebase, so we'll open Firebase. So we'll open 𝗏𝗏 Firebase project. Then we'll open the cloud Firestore. So the field which we need is like the date field. So we'll extract the data from based on the date. So where the date is greater than or equal to last week date, and one more condition, that's like where date less than or equal to current date. So based on that we'll get the data. So once this data has been received, so we'll return the report config, then we'll get the data. It will be in a snapshot. So now what we will do is like we have to format the dates as well as, so first we'll print up a log like what we are getting in a snapshot. As well as we'll so it will be like an array of objects. So what we'll do is like we'll create an array. So we'll just give an array named datas equal to an empty array. So now we'll write up a for each snapshot.forEach. So inside this for each we'll be having a document. So we'll take each document. So now we'll have the data equal to document.data, and then this data will be having all these fields like so it will be so what will happen is like once we give this report config report reference.get, so it will return all these data from this collection name. So the date tracker collection name will be giving on. So how it goes, like we are given like a db doc, right? So the db doc will be having the collection name. So we'll be having the query like extract the data which is greater than this last week date and less than current date. So it will be available in the report reference. So from that reference we'll get the data, and it will be like it will have all this data in an array of object. So we'll be looping those things using for each. So it will take each record. So first record will be taken with a key value pair. So from this key we'll be taking these values like date, place and time. So that's what we have written in this for each loop. So we'll be having the data will be having these three columns like date, place and time. So what we can do is like once we get this data, so once we get this data, what we can do is we can push it to the data's array. So that we will do it now. So from this data, So we'll push these things to the data array, like we'll be having 3 objects, that is the date, the time, and the place. So the place will be data.place, data.time, and it will be like data.date. So what we can do is like we use movement data.date.format into a human readable form. So we'll change it to date, month, year format. So now we have pushed those data to the data array. So next thing what we'll do is like once this data has been pushed up, next thing we have to push those things to a table. So that part we'll do now. So for that, so first we'll import the table option in assistant. So in the conversation we'll add one more case like table. So now we'll go here and then we will push those data to the table rows. So instead of data, what we can do is like we can directly push it to the table rows, or we can, what we can do here, okay, we'll do like this way. So already we have pushed it to the data. So in the data, what we can do is like we'll format it according to the table format which is needed. So we'll go to the assistant conversation, or it will be like an assistant conversation. We'll go to the assistant conversation plugin in library. So there they have given the docs like how to print up a table. So we'll open that one now. So meantime I think like this one also would work fine. I hope so we'll open this guy. So first we'll go to the GitHub page like so for the table I mentioned it like we already raised an issue regarding this. We'll look at that one. So the data format should be like the conversation add table, and we should have the rows. So each row will be having a cell. So each cell will be having an array of objects with the text which is needed. So what we can do is like we can reformat this data.push to the format which we need. Like it will be an array of objects with key cells. So again it will be contain an array. So like I'll try to write the code refactor this code accordingly. So the first thing what we have to do is like so we'll go to the data's array. So we'll format it like this. Data's.push. So the first thing what we will have is a key, that is cells. So it will be an array of object. So this array of object will contain the key again text. So check it one more time with the document. Cells with again a text, the number of rows which we have. So we'll have the text again. So instead of date field, what we'll do is like we'll copy this one. So paste it here. Make it even more readable format. So first row we have added, our first column in the table we have added. So we'll add the second column, that is, so first we have given the date, then the time, that is data.time, and then the third thing, that is text. So for this text it will be the place, so we can have it like this. So now this data has been added up. So for now we can remove this old guy out, take this one. So it will be get pushed up to the snapshot. So now we'll add the conversation end part. That is like so once the data has been added, so we'll add the conversation end with a new table. So it will be having an object. So we'll be having the columns for the table with an array of objects. So this array of objects will have the headers for the table, and for the rows we will pass the data. So instead of counts we will change it to let. So now we'll give the header, table headers. So each column will be having a key value pair of objects, an array of objects like a header. So this header will be date, and one more header. So this guy will be time, and one more, the last one, like the place the user has visited. So now we have created the table as well as the rows, and we have passed those data. So now what we can do is we'll check it one more time whether all the things are working fine or not. Seems to be. So we are getting the last 15 days date from the current date, and we are getting the current date, and we are writing the query. So we are getting the reference and using the snapshot. So we are using a for each to get the each data. We are pushing it to the data array with the format like cells. So each cell will be having an array of objects, that's like a text with the date, time and place. So once the data has been pushed up, so we'll be printing those data to the table. So now what we can do is we can deploy this function and check whether everything works fine or not. So else we can check where we have went wrong. I think like so the function is getting deployed. So now so we can look at the documentation what the assistant conversation has been provided, so we can see all the required things like for how to show an image or a list or a collection, the table. So those things you can check those documents. So I'll be adding it in the description also. So as well as you can check out their GitHub page, like they provided some examples. So when we if you see like in the earlier actions package, so the table which we create will be like in it will be like we'll be having an array, inside will be having one more array. So those things has been get changed in the new assistant conversation. So the function gets deployed, so we'll test it out. So we'll see how things are working on. So we'll enable the settings one more time. So now we'll test our action. So I hope like there is some of data.
Welcome to Day Tracker. Did you went out today?
So we'll choose no.
Would you like to see the places you have visited earlier?
We'll choose yes. And here we go. We got the data in a table format. So you can see the data has been getting printed in a table format here. So we have done it correctly. So things like the time is not been ordered, so that's not a problem. Like we can use up a query, or we can use the array and we can do those things. So this one is fantastic. Like so we'll add up one more case. Suppose if there is no data, so what we have to do? So in that case, if the user chooses yes and goes out, so we'll see the table format one more time, and based on that we'll write up the logic. So the rows will be an array of objects. Fantastic. Like what we can do is like, so we'll be having three set of conversations here. So first thing, like when we say yes, if you notice here, like when we say yes, the table gets displayed, but there is no conversation here. Like here's the list of places you have visited, those kinds of things. So first we'll add that one, and we'll write the case like if there is data, then we'll show the table, else we can show some sort of a message. So first we'll add this message like here is the list of places you have visited from, so it will be now format of, you can make it even better like giving the dates. The thing is like we have to format it so we can do it in a general way. Here's the list of places you have visited, and then like we'll write up a condition if the data's using 𝘊' here, no. So if the array's length is greater than 0, so which means there is some data, so we'll add those data here, or else there is no data available. So what we can do is like we can give a message to the user, you have not visited any places on, you have not visited any places for the last 15 days. So if there is some data, then we'll show the table, else we can show this message. So it will be applicable like for one more case, like if it is a new user, and instead of if the user chooses no, then at that time there won't be any data available for that user. So then in that case it will be get failed. So for that we can handle in this way. So we'll deploy this function and check the positive case. So like whether this statement, okay, I think like instead of showing this thing here, we can add it here. Like if there is data, then we can show these two things, else we can show this one message. So let it get deployed, or else we can save this one out. So now like showing those data, so wherever the user has visited, so those details will be available. So the next thing what we'll do is like once these data are available, so we'll move to another scene, that is whether the user wants to download these reports with an option like email or WhatsApp. So based on that, we'll write the logics in our backend side, the cloud function to get those data, to send those data in mail or in WhatsApp. So before sending those things as a mail or a WhatsApp, first thing we have to do is like we have to create a PDF file for this one. So that part we will handle it out. We'll create a PDF file, and then we'll upload those. We'll generate a PDF file based on the data which we are receiving from the Firestore. Then we can send it through either email or through WhatsApp. So we'll check whether the function has get deployed or not. So it's getting deployed. So we'll check the logs as well, like how the data came for the snapshot. For the snapshot, just filter it here. So now the function has been get deployed, like we'll set that test one more time and we'll check it.
Here's the test version of 𝗂𝗓. Welcome to 𝗂𝗓. Did you went out today?
No.
Would you like to see the places you have visited earlier?
Yes.
Here is the list of places you have visited.
So now we are getting that data, like here's the list of places we have visited along with that table. So we'll check that one more condition, like if there is no data available, so we'll delete this collection. So we'll see what happens. So the collection has been get deleted.
Getting the test version of 𝗂𝗓. Welcome to 𝗂𝗓. Did you went out today?
No.
Would you like to see the places you have visited earlier?
Yes. So we'll see what happens now.
You have not visited any places for the last 15 days.
So this part works fine as we expected. So even if there is no data in the Firestore, or if there is if the dates are not matched, so in that case we will be showing this message. So this one is a general message. You can even change it out based upon your needs. So I'm just handled it for one case. So I think like so we have covered till this part, like so we'll show a message to the user, and if the user says yes or no, so based upon that we'll be showing the data in the table if it is yes, or if it is no, we'll be showing a message and stop the conversation. So in the next part what we'll do is like we'll navigate to the next scene to generate the reports and send it either through email or WhatsApp. So we'll see in the next part for this report generation. Till then, thank you.